On June 23rd, 1991, His Lordship, the Most Reverend Robert A. Janos, was ordained a priest for the Archdiocese of Port of Spain. He was a Vicar General from 2011 to 2013 and Auxiliary Bishop from 2013 to 2016, until Pope Francis appointed him Apostolic Administrator of the St. John's Bastia Diocese on June 20th. He was recently appointed Bishop of the Diocese of St. John's Bastia, which includes the islands of Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Anguilla, Montserrat, and the British Virgin Islands. Father Janos is on the line here with us now via Skype, and we say congratulations to you, Bishop Janos. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
And you are Bishop-elect because you will actually take up office from February 3rd, correct? 2019?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. I'll be installed on February 3rd.
But this is wonderful news for you, Bishop. What does it mean when you become Bishop of St. John's Bastia? What does that role mean?
Well, I have been Apostolic Administrator for the last 2.5 years,
Yes.
essentially administrating the diocese. But now I am, in theological terms, married to St. John's Bastia.
Right.
And so I am the bishop, the ordinary of the diocese, and therefore I have full responsibility for the diocese. In theological terms, as I say, I'm married to the diocese is married to me.
That sounds really like you are in charge of the diocese, right? You're saying it in different words. And what are some of the issues? Do you know some of the issues that you would have to be dealing with as you go into this new territory?
Well, one of the biggest needs, actually, as one can imagine in many parts of the world right now, the biggest need of the diocese is financial needs. We were struck with hurricanes Irma and Maria last year in 3 of my islands in the diocese. The British Virgin Islands, Tortola and Virgin Gorda, were very, very badly damaged. Anguilla, less so. And much lesser extent, St. Kitts and Nevis had some minor damage. So as a church in all of these islands, had quite a task of, seeking funding to rebuild and repair over the last year. I have to say I have been very successful in terms of soliciting funds for help from all over the world. And about 2/3 of the restructuring and rebuilding has taken place. But we still have a long way to go. I still have to rebuild the church. The only Catholic church in Virgin Gorda still has to be rebuilt, and we will begin in 2019, early 2019. So that is one of the main issues for the diocese. Now, once that happens, of course, your means of generating funding for all the other responsibilities of the diocese are affected, because you have to focus on the rebuilding and restructuring of the physical plant of the diocese in these different islands. Outside of that, well, we have the normal struggles of today's world in terms of spreading the faith, evangelizing. It's a little difficult because, of course, we are talking about 8 islands and 5 countries around which I have to function. And it's not always easy when you're trying to do a project or set up a program, because you have to consider the distance between the islands, the fact that they use different currencies, they have different legal authorities and governments operating with different constitutions. So it's a little bit of an exciting enterprise, but I'm quite sure we will succeed.
How vibrant is the Diocese of St. John's Bastia? And I know in Trinidad and Tobago, and perhaps some of the other Caribbean islands as well, there's a concern with regard to the availability of priests and the shortage of priests. Do you have the same issue in your territory?
Well, I would not say we have a shortage of priests. The diocese is manned primarily by the SVD religious congregation, who have been here for many, many years. And And so wherever we fall short in terms of having a diocesan priest available, the SVD community will fill in that role, will fill in that spot with one of their priests. So I am less stressed on that issue than are my brother bishops in the Caribbean.
Right.
I can't say that we are short. In the last year or two, I've also encouraged a number of seminarians and in the past some priests to come from dioceses in Africa. So we have some Kenyans, we have a priest from Zambia, we have one or two now in seminarians now training to be priests who are from Kenya. So we've been pretty okay. I am not stressed in that regard.
Okay. Well, I know on a lighter note, it's Christmas just around the corner. Will you be back in Trinidad for Christmas, or are you spending Christmas in St. John's, Bastille? Actually, where are you now?
No, right now, yes, I'm in St. John's, Antigua, which is where the headquarters of the diocese is. It's
right.
Located in St. John's, Antigua. Yeah, I'm here. Well, remember, I just told you I'm now married to the diocese, so I can't leave my spouse as freely as I used to.
So that sounds like Christmas in Antigua for you.
Christmas in Antigua for me. It's not like Trinidad, I can assure you.
But not a bad place to be. Certainly not a bad place to be for Christmas either. Antigua and Barbuda, beautiful island, beautiful country.
A very beautiful island, yes.
Yes.
But I will be back in Trinidad on the 7th of January just for a week.
Yes.
So to make arrangements, yeah.
And I'm gonna be a little cheeky now. Does this mean that you're on your way? The route now after Bishop, what's next? Is it Archbishop, Cardinal, Pope? Is that how it goes in the hierarchy of the Catholic Church?
Well, in theory, that's how it goes, but I imagine that this is where it stops for me.
Well, you never know. You never know, do you?
You never know. You never know. But I don't think ahead like that. I think only of what's in front of me, what my responsibilities are now,
yes.
And I want to do my best, of course, as a bishop.
Okay, well, congratulations, Bishop Robert Janos there, live on Skype from Antigua, recently elected rather, the Bishop of the Diocese of St. John's Bastille to take up position from February 2019. So we want to thank him for coming on this morning and sharing with us what he expects to be doing in that region. Right now, we go across. It's very interesting that we're going from Bishop Janos to talk about the legalization of marijuana.
Yeah.
Yes?
And
maybe I should have asked him what he thought about that.
Because our guest,
yes,
he was actually in Antigua and Barbuda recently, earlier this year,
yes.
and he worked with the government there to get the marijuana legalized in that country.
Oh, you should have jumped right in, Richie.
So you see,
yes.
there is a connection. There's always a connection.
Bishop,
because in February, Antigua and Barbuda, their parliament had passed
yes.
the bill to decriminalize the possession of up to 10 grams of cannabis. And we want to start by talking about that because Mr. Marcus Ramkissoon, he was part of that. And wait, the director just told me that the bishop is still on.
Bishop Janos, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. And I don't know if you heard the conversation that followed, but we are jumping into a conversation.
Yes, I heard.
Yeah, well, we're jumping into conversation on the legalization of marijuana 2019 in Trinidad and Tobago. And I understand that it's something that was just very current in your region. Any views, any thoughts on that matter?
Well, I don't know if you want to hear my views because
yes, of course. It's an open territory.
I happen to be a pastoral psychologist myself, a family therapist,
yes.
And I have dealt with quite a number of cases of marijuana use, in young people particularly, but also in older young adults. And my experience in terms of therapy and so on is that it's crazy to legalize marijuana, quite honestly. It's absolutely crazy thing. Now, I have no problems with medical marijuana. I have no problems with that. I think that's a great thing. It's a great advancement in the medical field, and I see its purposes. But I am not so sure people understand the difference between the use of medical marijuana and using marijuana on a social level. interviewed and I have done therapy with some clients, and their brains are literally mush because of weekly or daily use of marijuana, even in small amounts over a period of time, especially when they begin in their teenage years. They cannot put a sentence together that makes sense. So I want to know who is regulating, how are you going to regulate the use of marijuana in the ordinary sense of the word among a teenage population or a young adult population who are going to use it for recreation?
Okay.
No matter how small the dose, over a period of time, the effects on the brain are such.
Okay, well,
So
we have Marcus. We have with us in studio
Mr. Marcus Ramkissoon,
Marcus
and he is advocating
Ramkissoon,
for it.
certified cannabis expert, director of the Caribbean Cannabis Institute, and we want to get his response now. Rishi?
Yeah, Marcus, you heard what...
yes. Well, I'm
Bishop
very glad that we had the bishop's comment because one of the biggest concerns within the islands going forward with regulation is, of course, the religious population. We've actually had the Archbishop of Antigua with us in committee stage and consultations in Antigua, so we also had his views on the topic. Now, I would say that the bishop's views a little bit extreme in the sense of persons not being able to form a complete sentence because in any regard with all the studies done, we've never seen such. But he is right that this is not something that should be allowed for adolescent use because the adolescent brain is still developing, or the young person's brain is still developing, and there are studies done that show that it can affect negatively the adolescent's brain. But this is also one of the reasons that we are looking towards regulation. Now, I should let the bishop know, of course, and our viewers know that we are looking towards medical cannabis regulation.
So it is just medical cannabis
We
regulation.
are not looking towards recreational use at all. First of all, we're not allowed to go recreational by the international community, and neither is it an entirely responsible move. And because, I mean, first of all, look, it's regulated by the international community for a reason. It wasn't done, a lot of people say it was done for money use and all that. No, it's a scheduled substance because it is a psychotropic substance. So it is scheduled for these reasons. Now,
So, Marcus, I want to wrap with Bishop because I'm sure he's going to be happy to hear what you just said.
Yeah.
Well,
Bishop Janos, are you still on the line with us?
I'm still on the line.
So did you hear what Marcus said? Marcus Ramkissoon, he said that it's not meant for recreational use, but for medicinal use only at this time.
Well, sure. Once that's the case, I'm fine with that. It's just what may happen going down the road that I'm concerned about.
Okay, well, we'll register your concerns and we'll throw it back to Marcus and Richie now. And I want to thank you and congratulate you once again and have a wonderful Christmas.
Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you.
And Marcus, so it is important, though, to hear the concerns of everybody.
yes, and this is why one of the things that separates me now as an expert, because look, before I became an expert, I was an activist and an advocate. And at one point in time, I was also, like many others here, pro-activist, meaning that I didn't want to take into regard some of the negative aspects and information about marijuana. As I studied and I became certified and experienced within this field, and now to the point that I can say I'm an expert, I have to be totally unbiased. One of the reasons I actually got my job in Antigua and was praised so highly by their government is because of the level of non-bias that I showed while drafting
But in Trinidad and Tobago,
yes.
the Attorney General said that they will be looking to further this discussion in 2019, in early 2019, and they have consulted with some organizations, including the Law Association, to have discussions on this whole marijuana issue. Was your organization or were you contacted at any point in time?
Well, actually, I wasn't, and a number of other private organizations, if you will, advocate organizations were contacted. Now, I did get the number of the group that's in the Attorney General's office that's in charge of the process of the consultations. And the young lady in charge was very happy to receive my my presentations to them, which was basically the proposed regulations that we've put forward amidst my qualifications and otherwise. And one of the groups that they mandated to have a consultation was Ministry of Health. And I was one of 3 persons that presented at the Ministry of Health consultation. That was about 2 months ago. And so they are moving forward to an extent. And we are happy within the marijuana community, meaning the persons who are advocating for its use in some way or the other. we are happy with some form of decriminalization. I mean, come on, I've been fighting for
And
decriminalization 14 years.
Yes. Making sure that there are mechanisms in place to protect people, especially young people, and the abuse of it.
Yes.
That is important.
Yes. Now, one of the biggest things, and this is why I'm happy for the bishop's comments this morning, right? A lot of people watching who are advocates might say, "Oh my goodness, you know, that's
He was a bit harsh with his comment."
But he's right to a point, and his views are correct to a point, and needs to be expressed and needs to be explained. As we just said, adolescent use can be negative. The use of marijuana consistently can be negative in the adolescent brain. So in a regulated system, now remember, Rishi, what we have now in Trinidad, there have been studies done by our National Drug Council over the years, and what they've found in secondary schools is that out of every 10 students, there are about 3 of them using marijuana. There are also 7 of them using alcohol, right? Also, right? This is their studies, but there are 3 people using marijuana. Now, where do young people get marijuana from? Same place adults get it from right now in an unregulated system on the black market. Now, if we put in place a regulated system, one that can compete with the black market to a point where you will get a better quality, a better price, a better amount, right? Then you would basically reduce the black market by demand reduction. People simply won't go to the black market if you can compete in price and quality. So in setting a regulated system, you close the black market. In closing the black market, you reduce the opportunities where young people can get their hands on it. Because a young person, an adolescent person, cannot come into the regulated system
and then it can make some money for the government as well.
Well, the economic side is a whole other side. I mean, just to give you an example, there's one movie star, if you will, from Hollywood that's invested $45 million into Antigua and Barbuda. And she's going to set up a wellness clinic there as soon as the regulations are out, because the law has been passed last week. And that's just one foreign investor of many that is coming to the islands. When Jamaica set their law, they had a ton of proposals, right? St. Vincent has just passed last week, and they also already have a ton of proposals. Now, why do you think that the foreign investors, the North Americans, the European companies are coming to the Caribbean? There's 2 reasons. One, we have sunlight. Remember, you're growing marijuana, you're growing a plant, right? And in most cases, in the temperate zones, these guys have to use a lot of electricity to either grow it indoors or in sealed greenhouses. And their electricity rates are very high. So one of the main things they look for is a country with intensity of sunlight and good sunlight and cheap cost of labor. In Trinidad, they'll get that, plus they'll get the lowest cost of electricity in the Western Hemisphere. Yeah. I can guarantee you that when Trinidad makes regulation, a lot of foreign investment will come to Trinidad.
All right, Mr. Marcus Ramkissoon, I'd like to thank you very much for coming on this morning and sharing your thoughts, and also, having that discussion, that short discussion with the bishop there.
Yes.
It is going to be a major talking point point in the new year, so it is something that I'm sure
thank you for having me. If I may make one closing comment. I see you have my letter there. I know we don't have time for it, but I have been applying to our government to consult, just like I've gotten the job in Antigua, voluntarily and free in Trinidad. And I've gone through all sorts of methods to get to the AG. So I'm trying publicly now, right, since I've sent out all my documents, please, Mr. AG, look at the documents and please respond. I'm not asking for a job. I'm asking for a response to my applications thus far. All right. So thanks for having me.
And the AG's phone number is public in case
I sent it and I got 2 blue ticks, but I never got a response.
Well, probably you might someday. Thank you very much,
Thank you very much.
Mr. Marcus
Have a good day.
Ramkissoon, for coming on.